Hey everyone, welcome back. It is Parker Burkett and I am done with the road trip and I'm finally back in my beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm excited to go through and break down one of my favorite shots from our road trip and go through exactly how I achieved the result that I was looking for. The shot was from Hawk's Nest and I wanted to take two different images, put them together to combine one really awesome light trail through a really unique road. Let's get after it. All right, so here's the final result of my evening shooting at Hawk's Nest. Now this is the result of two separate shots being combined in Photoshop, and I'm gonna go through exactly how I achieved this result from taking the photo to the end result through Photoshop. Let's talk about it. All right, so now that you've seen the final image, let's talk about what it took to capture it. As I said before, this is a combination of two separate images that I used Photoshop to combine into one. The first image I shot during perfect lighting with all of the settings in the camera that I really wanted for a perfect exposure. The second image, I waited about an hour until the light was very dark, and I was able to really focus on capturing the light trails themselves from beginning to end. In the first image, I wanted to make sure that my lighting was good, so we took it close to golden hour, and I wanted to make sure that it was sharp as a tack and I didn't want to lose any detail. So with that being said, my settings for this shot were ISO 100 to make sure that I could get all of the detail, no grain, just a perfect pure image. I did this manual focus at f11 so that I could get it sharp as a tack. When I manual focus, I typically use the hyperfocal technique where on the back of the camera, in the electronic viewfinder, I will zoom all the way in, rock the focus ring back and forth until I can achieve what I feel like is perfect focus, and then I go from there. Since this was on a tripod, I wasn't as concerned with my shutter speed as well. For the second image, as I said, we waited about an hour to take it. We waited until everything else was dark. I didn't really change any of my settings except for the fact that I changed from manual to bulb mode. Now in bulb mode, I have a remote control where I can control exactly how long I want that exposure to be. Now with the same settings, but in bulb mode, my shutter speed is whatever I want it to be. So as cars came from the opposite end and from my end and converged through the middle, I basically waited until I had one car behind, one car in front. I started my exposure and I let it go for about 40 to 42 seconds. That was the full time from one car to get from the end all the way to the beginning and vice versa. So I was able to capture one fluid light trail. All right, guys, we are back inside where it's warm and we are ready to edit. So I have gone ahead and uploaded all of my images from Hawk's Nest onto my hard drive, ready for Lightroom and Photoshop. When we go in, I have already gone through and edited my primary photo that I want, and I have my secondary image of the light trails that I took. Now, when I have both of these highlighted, you're going to right-click, go into Edit In, and Open as Layers in Photoshop. So once you do that, I already have mine open and I'm ready to go. So I have my two images over here. I want to make sure that both of these are selected. I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to go to Auto Align Layers, and that way Photoshop will align these to the best of its ability, and usually it's pretty spot on. So now these are perfectly lined up, and sometimes you'll see a little bit of white down here or on the sides, and that's just them shifting the images to match perfectly. So once you have this here, you are going to go highlight the top image, which is your daytime image, and you're going to go to the blending mode here and go to lighten. Bam! There it is. Now, the reason this does this is that darker image only has one part that's brighter than your overall first image. And that is the only thing that's going to get pulled through. So you have your light trails matched through into your final photo. So once you're done with this, go ahead and right-click, flatten image or merge visible. Those will combine into one full shot. Go into File and hit Save. Now don't hit Save As, or that will actually save it to a separate file outside of Photoshop and Lightroom. If you just hit the save button, that will go directly into Lightroom. This is my final saved image that came through. Once all of that is finished, you've got your final image. All right, so I do want to reiterate a few points. If you're on location taking multiple shots for a photo like this, make absolutely sure that you do not move your tripod. You will auto-align these layers in Photoshop, but as long as they're as close to each other as possible, you shouldn't have any issues. Now also when you're on location, make sure that you're taking plenty of photos. When I'm shooting, I'm typically shooting different compositions and I'm taking hundreds of photos. For a shot like this, I took probably 30 in the good light and 30 later night of the light trails to make sure that I had an abundance of options. Thank you guys so much for joining us on our Canon Road Trip, as well as for this breaking down the shot tutorial. I really appreciate your time and I hope you learned something. Remember, enjoy your photography and enjoy all of the surroundings that you shoot in.